Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Ed to order. First, to the right, to the left, and I suppose you can go on the TV. Kel, would you please call the roll?
James Mooney.
Present.
Robert Tillman.
Here.
William Hall.
Here.
Jeffrey Riazzi.
Here.
Christine Bellarosa. Here. Carol Kelder. Here. Raymond McClary.
Here.
Scott Colston.
Here.
Timothy Wells.
Here. Please rise for the pledge, and after the pledge, please remain standing.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
So, tonight we have a moment of silence. A monitor who just retired with us in August, Agnes, recently passed away. We also request for a moment of silence for Lee Martino and Jason Wolf, graduates and community members. Thank you. I will call for the motion to approve the minutes of October 10th, 2023. Motion by Mr. Riazzi, is there a second? Second by Ms. Bellarosa. Discussion. None being heard, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Student report, Ms. Bills.
Olympiad will be competing at Cornell University this weekend. We're putting the finishing touches on the senior high gym, backboards, bleachers, new paint, and new separation wall. It looks great. New chairs are being installed in the auditorium, new sound and lights, and a new control room and new floors. Everybody is welcome to the grand opening on Tuesday, December 5th for the junior and senior high winter band concert at 7 p.m., as well as the choir concert on Tuesday, December 19th at 7 p.m. The pre-SATs are this Saturday, November 18th at 7:30 a.m. That's all.
Thank you. Dr. Risley? Good evening, everybody. We just wanted to provide some updates from our fall sports since they've come to a conclusion. This past year we had 331 fall student athletes, 127 at the modified level, 51 at the JV level, and 153 at the varsity level. Varsity boys soccer won the sectional game, lost in overtime in their quarterfinal game. Girls varsity soccer made it to the sectionals. Varsity golf were the Mahal season division champions. Varsity football won their first sectional game since 1994, I was told. Cross country team will be in the Mahal championships at the Hudson Valley Sports Dome and the sectional championships at Warwick. Tomorrow, the high school is being paid by the Freeman because Damon Weishaupt was named the Freeman Player of the Year for football, and Nick Bernard was named to be Coach of the Year for football. So congratulations to our athletes. Ms. Jane Greco, you're on.
All right. We're going to step back a little. First of all, welcome to Morris Elementary. We're so happy to have you here. We're going to jump right into our presentation. So, I always say that the first thing, or the most important thing is, if you've never worked in an elementary school, you should experience a little slice of our day. So we're going to start with a brief video. This is a photo per day of our last school year, so you get a little taste of what it's like to be at Morris daily.
Don't think about it, just move your body. Listen to the music, sing oh yeah, oh. Just move those left feet, go ahead, get crazy. Anyone can do it, sing oh yeah, oh. Just got that fire. Listen, feel the rhythm, get louder.
So that's a little taste of what it's like to be in an elementary school every day. A couple of the things before we dig into our data that we wanted to highlight is we had a culture change here last year. When we talked about how we wanted to celebrate our year, we really wanted to celebrate every single student and we wanted them to own it. So instead of doing a principal's breakfast, instead we did a success parade. Every student wrote down one thing that they knew they had accomplished this year that they had pride in, and we marched around the building to music, and every single student had signs, everything from I learned to count to up to 10, to I made friends, to I learned how to read, to I became an officer in student council. So they were able to identify the thing they were proud of and share that with us. Also this summer, and you can see in that picture with the gigantic Mustang, we started something called kindergarten signing. This is an opportunity during our kindergarten jumpstart for students to make a commitment to being an excellent student and doing all those things we know lead that. So being on time, being ready to learn, being ready to listen. And they each got a certificate that they signed with their handprint saying that they were ready to join our school community and be learners, which is all we asked for them at the beginning. We also really pushed last year to build a culture of lifelong learners, adult learners, and student learners. And I really feel like the staff at Morris stepped up. We had 2 opportunities for staff to share with their peers. And we had 11 staff members who took that really kind of scary leap and presented to their peers and shared what they were doing in their classrooms. And it's not an easy thing to ask people to do when they were ready to answer the call. We also have 2 teachers who are currently piloting a program. These amazing boards that we're in the process of putting into classrooms are really wonderful things, but for our youngest learners, they're up really high. And we know that kids are really hands-on learners, especially at that phase. So we have in our kindergarten and first grade classrooms the same board, but it goes all the way to the ground and then levels out to a table. So you can have multiple students interacting on the board at the same time. And we're hoping to gather information to show that at our earliest level, that's the way that they should be interacting with our interactive technology. By putting our music ensembles during the day, we've seen a very large increase in the number of students participating in performing ensembles, which teaches so many skills that will help them all through school and beyond. Through the help of our amazing instructional coaches, our first grade team and now our second grade team, our students are having data talks. They're looking at their own data and they are identifying with very little guidance areas they need to grow and setting goals with their teachers. So again, this is highlighting that education isn't something we do to students, it's something we do with students collaboratively, and this is happening in first and second grade, which is really exciting. And the other big thing that we were able to do this year is we had some flexibility in our schedule, and during our MTSS time, we've been able to schedule with our librarian, who will be starting very soon, and our art and music teachers to take our highest achieving students and give them the opportunity to do hands-on, long-term projects. So not only during that MTSS time are we servicing students who need extra academic support, we're allowing our students who are excelling academically to take it to the next level and do a project of interest. So we're really excited about those things. When we get into a couple of the areas we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about data and growth, as always, strategic planning, student voice, where you will hear from some of our very engaging students, and community engagement. So we're going to start looking at math data. This is from last school year. Beginning of the school year is the top and end of the school year is the bottom. We can see that our students made a really nice amount of growth from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year, with over 50% of students being on grade level, which is that green. Ideally, we want them to be in the dark green because that's end of grade level. But overall, what we're looking for is as many students as possible in the green, and preferably the dark green, and the less amount in the dark red, which is 3 grade levels below, and light red, which is 2 grade levels below. So this is the growth we had from last year. If we go to the next slide, because when we look at data, we want to look short term, but we also want to look long term historically. So this is September of last year and September of this year. So when I'm looking at this, I think that initially we look at it and go, there's not much change in the green, but if you shift your eyes over to the other side, the red, what we're seeing is a pretty sizable decrease in the students who are starting our school year off 2 or 3 grade levels behind. And I would hypothesize, especially because I don't have it on slide, but in 2021, that red was completely stagnant. It was the exact same percentage. Now we're seeing through our academic supports, our excellent instructional and coaching, our higher focus on standard-based instruction, and our MTSS program, we're seeing a decrease, which means those students who are 2 or 3 grade levels before are shifting into the yellow. And it's going to take multiple years to get them to the green, but they're making progress. And we'll see that in the ELA data too. Sorry. Again, our reading data shows a similar growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. In reading, we actually got over 60% of our students in the green. So again, really excellent progress. It's a tribute to all the instructors and staff in the building on really pushing that standard-based instruction. If we go and look at the historic, we're again seeing a pretty sizable decrease in the students who are in that 2 to 3 years from last year to this year. Here in reading, we're actually seeing a nice increase in the green. So I think this is telling us the interventions we're putting in place are working, and we have to keep going that way and look for more, because I think our students are shifting out of the 2 to 3 year range, which is ideally what we all want. The other data that we get to share with you tonight is our extended day data. Last year we ran an extended day program for most of the school year. We had 131 students participate in at least one of the programs. That's 43% of our whole student body. And then when we dug down into the data, our programs were academic-based, SEL-based, enrichment-based, and we had students doing targeted Wilson, which is a really intense reading program that we're actually having even more staff doing this year. So we were so excited with the results. Can we go back, Rocco? Sorry. And then just very quick, our iReady data has what's called typical growth, and that's a year of growth, and stretch. Stretch is how we're making up that deficit, so it's pushing the kids who are behind and asking them to make more than a year of growth, which a lot of them are doing. And for the kids who are already at grade level, it's pushing them even farther with advanced activities. So it's really personalized. And when we looked at it, 66% of our students who participated in extended day made their reading typical growth, and 57% made their stretch growth. In math, the numbers are a little lower, but we still had 60% of the students participating make their yearly growth, and 51 make their typical growth. So again, not only were our staff being standard-based and working exceptionally hard during the day, they pushed it into our extended day and really provided those growth opportunities for our students. So at this point, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Eve Ruberg, who is our Student Council President.
Good evening, Board of Education. My name is Eve Ruberg, and I am Barrington Morrison's Student Council President. And last year, I was Vice President. I want to share with you some highlights from our previous school year. We planned several Spirit Week events for the whole school to participate in. My favorite Spirit Day last week was Freaky Friday, because I love seeing kids dress as their favorite teachers and teachers dressing like their students. We also planned and hosted an egg hunt for kindergarten, first grade, and second grade students. We had a stand play afternoon for third and fourth graders with games, snow cones, and a tie-dyeing station. For fifth and sixth grade students, we hosted a social with music, games, and food. We also supported the PTA holiday shop by decorating shopping bags for all students, and we had a very well-attended family bingo night. I would now like to introduce our Student Council Vice President, Riker Darmanin.
Thank you, Eve.
I would like to share some of the student council updates from this year so far. We had 18 students run for student council office. They did a great job creating campaign posters and delivering speeches to the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students. Last year we hosted the Veterans Day Assembly and helped decorate the building for the veterans. This week we are running a building-wide penny war hosted by with the PTA. One thing that I'm looking forward to working on this year in student council is a food drive for Score Store. Now I would like to introduce our student council co-secretary, Kaylee Slade.
Thank you, Riker. I'm going to share with you updates from the Drama Club. Last year we had 2 productions of the play Munchkin Mediation with our director, Miss Raleigh. We had a great time learning our parts and working together. I was Dorothy in the play last year, and my favorite part of the Drama Club was performing the musical we all worked so hard on. This week we are starting auditions for the year's production of We Are Monsters. We can't wait to see this play come together and are very excited for the construction to be completed, so we can move all of our performances to our brand new stage. Now I'd like to introduce Olivia Bell, our student council treasurer.
Thank you, Kaylee. Some other opportunities for students to be engaged at Grand Teamwork are we had a student principal for the day last year, and we're looking forward to a student being chosen again this year to run the school on January 11th. We had a fun end of part celebration where students got to smile and illustrate Mrs. G. We were very proud to have 100% student participation in part last year. My favorite books that I read last year was the Harry Potter series. Also, Mrs. G and Greco has met with the whole 6th grade to get feedback, and we'll begin this month meeting with small groups of 6th graders to get input for BLT meetings. Now I'd like to introduce our Student Council Co-Secretary, Lily Smith.
Thank you, Olivia. I'm going to share with you some of the community events we have had at Morris so far this year. In September, we had our open house for families. In October, we had parent-teacher conferences and Fire Safety Day. And in November, we hosted our annual Veterans Day Assembly. Our PTA has posted our fall book fair, Trunk or Treat, and this week they will be kicking off a new event this year. One Book, One School. This is 20-day long program where everyone at Morris will read the same book and participate in activities together. And even the public library has gotten involved. There are lots of lemons around the building, and the clue on the announcement today was 12 years. The student council officers were talking about it over dinner, and we think the book might be Lemons by Melissa Savage. I would like to thank you for your time this evening and pass the microphone back to Mrs. G.
Thank you so much. They're a wonderful representation of Morris students. And I didn't think this through because I should never have followed them. They're that good. One of the other elements that we wanted to talk to, we didn't have the opportunity to do this last year. I came to Morris, I think on August 21st. But we were excited this year to do some strategic planning this summer. We have an amazing support team at the school. We have Melissa Rebuffo, our school psychologist, Keenan Jones, our school social worker, and Chartrice Wolf, our school nurse, who we just lovingly call Nurse Char. We meet weekly to discuss student needs and to plan student supports in a very individualized basis. But one of the things we discovered last year is we all felt we were being really reactive, and we wanted to come up with a plan to do that differently. So with the support of Dr. Rohrbeck and Dr. Ursig, we were granted time this summer to work together. We planned materials around community engagement and classroom whole lesson support, and we also created something called SAWS, which is Sawyer's Acting with Sensitivity. We recognize not everyone in our school community has had the opportunity to earn multiple degrees in education and take child psychology courses, and we wanted to make sure that everyone who came into our school, parents, students, and staff, were handled in a caring and sensitive way. So we created a program that raised the expectation of how we address each other and everyone in our school community. We also created a one-page document where it outlines strategies on how to support people without necessarily knowing their whole story or knowing how they might be diagnosed, but just to help people. Dr. Rohrbeck over the summer got a hold of it and shared it with Dr. Ursig, and all of a sudden it was shared with me that they wanted us to share it with the whole district. So at a superintendent conference day, we were able to roll it out and get feedback because we created this plan simply through the lens of Morse. And with the feedback from staff at all the other buildings, we were able to begin the process of refining it so it can actually not just be a Morse document, but can be an entire Saugerties Central School document. That's the logo we use, and all the Morse staff wear a pin with that logo as a nonverbal reminder of how we handle and address and speak to everyone who comes into our school community. So when time is available, we will create the document with all the feedback. And our eventual hope is that not only will it be shared among Saugerties Central School Districts, but it might be something that we would share out with community. So not only are students are experiencing people acting with sensitivity at school, but possibly at Little League or at the library, and we would, again, eventual down the road, maybe change it from Sawyer's to Saugerties Acting with Sensitivity. But it's something that it's been a very much a labor of love for this group, and we really hope that it long-term helps everyone involved. We have started our 2023-2024 BLT meetings. We actually, all of our members either aged out, I should say, almost all our members either aged out or moved out of district. So we have an almost entirely new BLT team. Ms. Pipitone did stick with us for another year, and we're happy to have her. Our parents represent kindergarten, 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 6th grade. And we have 2 staff members currently on the BLT, myself and one of our 6th grade teachers. We are in the process of creating SMART goals around attendance, instruction, and either social, emotional, or family and community engagement. We chose to focus on attendance first. So we looked at our chronic absenteeism data, we looked at different articles around attendance, and also just had conversations based on all of our experiences, and we came up with our first SMART goal being during the 2023-2024 school year, Grantee Morris will decrease chronic absenteeism by 5% using individualized and research-based plans. And we'll use data sources of our monthly attendance reports to review at BLT meetings, and also use research-based articles to promote strategies and positive reinforcement that our student support team can then implement. And I have talked far than enough. If there are any questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Thank you.
Step away from the microphone. Okay. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jean Greco, thank you, students. You guys were great. The next item is public recognition. It's going to be split into 2 parts. Public recognition of items on the agenda or anything that occurred from the last meeting and this meeting. And then the second, we're going to have a public hearing on the volunteer firefighters exemption.
So any member of the public wishing to address the board, please approach the podium, state your name and residence, and feel free to talk. Okay, then we'll move to the firefighters public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the volunteer firefighters exception, please approach the podium. Okay, we're moving to board members' remarks. Any board members wishing to speak? Please. Oh, I'm sorry. The auditor's report. So for the auditor's report, we're going to share our screen. You're up next, Carol. Joe, when you're ready, you can start. But we can't hear you, so hang on.
You're muted.
No. Should I just put the microphone to my laptop?
Volume's all the way up on our end.
Joe, can you talk now? See if it works? I can hear something. Joe, can you mind talking, Joe? See if we can hear you.
Anybody know any jokes?
How about now?
There he is.
Does it come to the TV or me?
You think you?
I couldn't hear anything. You guys, all I heard was static.
Okay. we're gonna try to make this work.
Are we good now?
Is it in the front end or is it back end?
Tell it was on top by your keyboard.
Keep going, I'll translate. So anybody have some coffee can hear this? All right, I think we're good. Yes, okay.
Okay, we'll be short and sweet. So I'm Joe Hero. I'm a principal at the Montevideo Group. I'm responsible for overseeing your audit. I met with the audit committee last week and went through the financial statements. I'll say in some detail. I'm just going to do a very high level, talk about the reports and the required communications letter. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer anything. So the scope of our services this year, we did an audit of the financial statements in accordance with government auditing standards. We issued a report on internal controls and compliance in accordance with government auditing standards. That's also known as the Yellow Book. There was a required communications letter that you should have a draft of. So those first three things are all drafted, ready to go. They're in QC now. So they should be issued later this week, early next week. And then what we're still working on and just about done with, I didn't realize we were so far along, but the single audit, the audit of the federal expenditures, I just have to review that, make sure we dotted our I's and crossed our T's, so that will be complete hopefully next week. I don't anticipate there being any findings or issues with that. And then you'll also have the audit of the extra classroom activity fund. I'll talk about the report where we issued it, but that'll be a cash basis. And again, that's just about ready also. So you should have those late next week. But the important one is the financial statement. So that's what we focused on to get that done as quick as possible. So in summary, we anticipate issuing an unmodified opinion that the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with GAAP. That is the highest level of assurance we can give. Then with regards to the Yellow Book report, the internal control report, we did not identify any material weaknesses in internal controls. We did not have any compliance issues that needed to be noted in that report. In that report, there is no opinion on internal controls. We test controls to get an understanding of those controls, and obviously if something came to our attention, it would be reported. But we use that understanding to then determine the testing that we're going to do on the financial statements. Then with the extra classroom activity fund on the cash basis, we also anticipate issuing an unmodified opinion on that. And as I mentioned, no findings with the single audit. There will be an opinion in there, and it will just talk about compliance with the major federal program, which I think is the ESF program, again, the ARP money, CRISA money that you guys got from the federal government the past couple of years, just because of the high dollar value associated with that. And then the other report that you have is the required communications letter. Gets issued to all of our clients at the conclusion of every audit. The important things to note in there, if there were new accounting policies implemented, it would be noted there. There were none. Last year was GASB 87 accounting for leases. This year there was a new accounting policy issued by GASB. You did not have to implement it because all of your agreements under that, it was subscription-based technology agreements, less than 1 year, so you did not need to implement it. And then the other important thing that would go in that letter is if there were material audit adjustments, which we did not have any. So the other stuff that's in there is just typical standard wording, comes right out of a standard letter, and like I said, all of our clients get that at the conclusion of the audit. So that's it. Questions?
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Joe.
Have a good evening.
All right, good night, everybody. Just wanted to provide a quick update on a couple things that have been going on and kind of give you an update as to where I've been with our community workshops. So if you go to the next slide. So for this, we've had 5 parent community workshops at our schools, about 20 people overall in attendance for that. I've also been at the American Legion, Kiwanis, Lions Club, Saugerties Library Board meeting last week. I met with several student government and council representatives. I junior, senior high school last year, and then I was Monday at Cahill, and then today I was at Riccardi. And then on the 20th, I'll be going to the Saugerties Area Council of Churches. And in my conversations with them, I kind of have the same kind of set of questions, so I'm just going to share out some of the results. I've kind of categorized things as best I can into kind of themes. So first question is always, what do you love about Saugerties, right? So even about the Saugerties area just in general, not just necessarily our schools, right? And the same kind of themes come up, right? So in events, lots of things to do. Our students really love sports, ice rink, so forth. The library came up as an outlet for students as well. Some reported that was welcoming a small town feel. This came from students as well as community members. One person in particular from the library board spoke about how it felt like a 1950s Americana, right? She walks every day, she says hi to people, everybody's friendly. Community support. I think we all kind of can speak to this in terms of, when people are in need, our community really rallies around it. Whether we have amazing individuals in the community by themselves who do spearhead those efforts. And we also have the small things that happen, right? Whether it be the score store, small donations here and there. The arts, particularly with our library board, the arts community, that was a reason why some people chose to move into Saugerties, was because of the art base. And then lastly, just overall, it's a beautiful area. Then we talk about what skills or qualities a graduate should have. So internally, we refer to this as a portrait of a graduate. So this, I'll read off some of the motivation, critical thinker, financial literacy, that came from students too. Wise decisions, of course our students said it maybe a little bit funnier than that. Grit, empathy, sense of what makes you happy, self-awareness, right? So the idea that a student can leave knowing internally what would fill their cup. And right now we have Torrance Hampton working with our junior high, or will be working with junior high students, but work with staff on that kind of self-assessment, self-awareness, and ultimately knowing where your passion lies and making sure your energy goes there. Conflict resolution, civic responsibility, that's a big one that's come up. Morals, values, ethics, emotional intelligence. That's also personal emotional intelligence, right? Regulating yourself and knowing where you are, but also reading the room, or reading the crowd, or reading the group. I just read an article recently about how emotional intelligence is extremely important in group dynamics and successful in groups. Communicate effectively, right? Not necessarily on their phones, but person to person, verbally. Exposure to opportunities, including trades. That's been a big one, especially with adult community members. Advocating for oneself and lifelong learning. As you see, most of those, if not all of them, are really kind of those soft skills that Gwendolyn shared about in the past in terms of, what are the top organizations, what qualities are they looking for when they hire. Then I talk about what we're doing well and then what we can improve on. So here's some of the things I came up with improving on. So promoting the trades, right? So not everybody needs to go to college. Getting a job right out of high school is a sign of success too. Going into a trade school is successful. Internships create more opportunities, and especially at the elementary level. This came up a couple of times, particularly with the community organizations, but reducing the stigma of going to BOCES. I do think that there's been progress over that since I was a student, but that was interesting that did come up. Ensuring every student is seen, building connections, bullying, diversifying staff, and then connections with community organizations. Some of the organizations said that they had scholarships or essay opportunities, and they're just not getting the volume of applicants that they've had in the past. And then the American Legion has a phenomenal museum, within walking distance. So how do we kind of capitalize on those things as well? And then I always kind of end with what concerns do you have 5 to 10 years out? So what's on the horizon? Financial, enrollment, more inclusive environment, bullying, increase the sense of belonging, increase parent engagement, and then reaching every student is the theme. Now, me going around doing this, I wanted to get a sense from the community, their perspectives, but these are the types of questions and conversations that we're going to be having going forward, particularly with strategic planning coming up, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I also just wanted to throw it out there that I have been trying to meet with elected officials as well. I met with Jen Metzger, had a great conversation with her about attendance, student mental health, and the environment. I do have to follow up with her, send her a couple things on student attendance, work with her on that. On the 16th, I'll be virtually meeting with the Community Affairs Director for Assembly Member Tahara. That, and then later that day, I'll be meeting with staff from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer And for that one, I'm super excited about, because at Cahill, we were having a conversation, and one young individual said that she had emailed President Biden. So I said, I want to see a letter, right? So she sent me the letter. It was very well written. She commented on how one of his speeches kind of is empowering her to kind of keep her drive going forth in her effort. So I read that, I ran upstairs, I said, hey, I'm meeting, it's not the president, but I'm meeting with people from Senator Schumer's office. Do you want to be on the call with me? So yeah. So Thursday I'll be going over there and we'll be having on the call together. So that's going to be a really cool opportunity for me. I'm jealous, right? But also for her. For that, hopefully it's for her. And then I'm going to drop into Michelle Hinchy's office hours in Saugerties Library as well. Going back to strategic planning. So I've identified a company that I like to go with for strategic planning. It's called Blueprint. These happen to be two individuals that I met at the NISCUS conference, which is the Council for School Superintendents. They're both current superintendents. They have developed this process. I've spoken to some people who've gone through it with them. So the first month, which I'm hoping to be January, February, would be kind of temperature gauge, where there would be a thought exchange survey that goes out to the community with similar questions that I've been asking. Thought exchange is nice because if somebody puts in a response, it will ask you to rank responses in terms of importance to you. So we'll kind of have some kind of ranking out of those as well to kind of help prioritize. Then the second month would be a mini session to develop mission, vision, core values with the Board of Education and the leadership team. At the end of that session, the goal is really have an understanding of what those are, and then we'll fine-tune the language kind of after hours in a sense, because you could spend all day work on commas, articles, and so forth. Then we have a strategic retreat with stakeholders, Board of Education and leadership team. So this is going to be a bigger group where we're really going to identify the what, right? So what are our objectives for the next 5 years? Flush those out. And then we'll come back to the leadership team, and then the leadership team will establish how we're going to get there, right? So what actions are going to be taken, who's going to be responsible for those actions. And then ultimately have the board adopt that. And that would be our strategic plan moving forward. That would drive our presentations to the board, that would drive our actions, that would drive our budgeting going forward. So that would be my plan for that. I also wanted to touch on hiring for principal positions. So just so everybody's aware of the process, this is a process that we've used in the past. I feel it's been pretty successful with the crowd we have sitting in front of us here. So we're going to have an adult panel, right? So that'll be comprised of staff members as well as parents and community members. We will have a student panel. There's also a writing prompt. I just want to kind of throw that out there too, just to make sure that somebody can communicate effectively in written as well. With those, we meet with everybody beforehand and we develop a rubric based on the qualities that they feel is important in the candidate. We also develop questions with them as to make sure that we have a question that corresponds to that. We'll go through. It's a confidential process. I want to see everybody's unfiltered feedback on each candidate. So these groups that meet, they do not have a conversation and say that our top person is this person. It is, here are the strengths and weaknesses for each candidate that we have. I go through those, and then from those, we'll select 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the quality of the candidates, as to who will move on to the next round, which would be an interview with the cabinet, as well as Board of Education president and vice president if they're available. And then in the meantime, I try to call references to kind of throughout. It's always a kind of a process, so we have that information before we make a decision. Ideally, we would have somebody presented before the board in December so that they can start in January. I do want to make it known though, right, if we're not happy, then we'll repost. All right. Lastly, I did want to share about the Blue Ribbon Commission, which revealed the report. Rocco, can you click that link? So the Blue Ribbon Commission just released a report on Monday. They presented it to the Board of Regents. I just want to go a very high-level overview. I was not able to watch it, and I didn't see it posted yet. I have been perusing the full document in this presentation. But first and foremost, the Blue Ribbon Commission was to look at graduation measures. This work right now is not a guarantee. These are only recommendations. So I want to make that be very clear that this is only recommendations right now. the next step would be for SED. So look at the recommendations and kind of make a priority list and then see which ones that they're going to tackle and kind of come up with a timeline at that time. If you could go down, Rocco. All right. There are 4 priority areas. The consideration of multiple pathways leading to a diploma, the review of assessment flexibility, understanding the meaning of life-ready credentials, and then culturally responsive curriculum and instruction. As you can see right there, I hope over the years you've seen how Saugerties is already kind of making steps towards this, right? Meaningful life-ready credentials. We're focusing on PBL. We're focusing on creating opportunities for our students, and so forth. All right. They did come up with 12 recommendations. The first is to have 1 common diploma, and then students can earn various seals and endorsements. Recommendation 2 would be to look at the credit requirements in terms of what is actually taught. So financial literacy, what our community is talking about, does appear there. 3 is access to career and technical education. That's been a big one for our community about trades and hands-on work-based learning opportunities. 4 is reorganization of the credit requirements. So in summary, that's saying, right, do we need to distinguish between math and science, or we call stuff STEM, right, and they have to meet a certain quantity for that. Diploma assessment requirements. So in essence, are all regions going to be required as they are now? Is there some modified version, or is there a combination of regions and other various assessments? 6, performance-based assessments. So those more real-world type of activities. And then options for specific students, right? So taking into account students' unique circumstances, if there's any major life events, and so forth, right? Recognizing that each student is unique, how do we capitalize on their potential to have them experience success? And then we had teacher education. One is talking about changing the preparation programs to provide specific instruction on culturally responsive sustaining education, and then requiring professional development in PD plans. And then lastly, looking at the New York State learning standards to make sure that they are what is appropriate for our students for success. All right. So once again, I'm going to emphasize that these are just recommendations at this point. Nothing is changing right now. More information is going to come from the state as they digest this and develop timelines. And when I met with the commissioner, she was really saying, really kind of seeing what's the low-hanging fruit that could be done, and then what stuff is going to be more involved, that's going to really involve policy and change at a deeper level. All right. Thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Dan Erson. Let's go to your audience.
I just wanted to say thank you to the Moore student government. I know that they left. So maybe Ms. Jean Greco, you can pass this on. I know it takes a lot of hard work, and I also know that it takes a lot of courage to get up and to present to us. I also want to thank you, Ms. Jean Greco, and Ms. Dixon for your commitment to giving those students that opportunity. And for your commitment to that program. So, thank you.
Ms. Rosa?
So I just wanted to mention it a couple weeks ago, the district put on a technology seminar, which I attended as a parent, which I found very useful. It went over Google Classroom again for those of us who were inundated with it during COVID and online learning, and getting a little refresher was very helpful. And over Schoology, which I think is used at a secondary level, which my kids will eventually be. So I thought that was pretty helpful, and a little bit went into iReady as well, which we talked about results that come out of that. And then the second half of the evening, they talked about social media and students being exposed to social media at such young ages, and As a parent who has kids constantly asking for their own cell phone and their own tablet and all of that, a lot of the information that was provided was eye-opening and scary, and was very helpful to hear as a parent. And I know that they mentioned that they're going to be coming back in March to do a similar presentation, and I would encourage anyone to go. It was very well done and just very informative. So thank you.
Mr. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Tolman. All right, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Tolman. Just a few congratulations. Typically, I don't want to miss anybody, but certainly congratulations to all the more students who have since left and did a wonderful job. I agree with Ms. Calder. Anytime the kids get the opportunity to do that, it's nice to see, because it's a confidence booster for sure. To see all kids have the ability to advocate for themselves, articulate what they're thinking is really the kind of thing that we should be striving for, and I think something that we do strive for. Congratulations to all of our fall athletes. As I think about the cycle of the school year, certainly participating in sports is a highlight, but following fall sports is winter sports, and then very nicely tucked in there are going to be our band and chorus events for the holiday season. So it's an exciting and very, very busy time in all of our schools, and congratulations to all those students wherever they may be, in terms of their participation. I want to thank. We had the opportunity with our facilities committee. We took a tour of the gymnasium at the high school level about a week and a half ago, and we were also able to see the auditorium, which is still in the process of being completed, but all of the new lighting and quite a bit of the prep work for the new seats. So it's exciting to see that, and I say that from the standpoint of someone that's seen that gym and has seen that auditorium for I'll say more than 20 years.
Don't try and figure it
I'm not gonna really go too far into that, but I was a band guy, so things like that are important, right? It's important, and it's nice to see those kinds of capital developments. So I give credit where credit is due for all of that. And then finally, I just want to say that I appreciate this final slide presentation from Dr. Ursig, the listening tour, because much like Dr. Ursig, I've been in this community for most of my life. And so someone might say, hey, on the surface, a listening tour, what are you talking about? You grew up here, don't you know all these people? I think it's a very specific step, and I think it's a phrase that I see our district use a lot, and one that I appreciate, but it's very intentional. There's an important role that the superintendent has here, and it's a role that far and away exceeds someone that lived and grew up in the community. And when I see Dr. Ursig participating in something like that kind of an activity, I feel really good about the direction that we're going in that respect. And then beyond that, even within the listening tour, the types of things that I'm seeing, because those people that don't know me, I have been a school teacher and have been a school administrator, but to see things like the emphasis on trying to find multiple pathways for students to move towards a commencement credential, emphasis on really expanding career and technical education opportunities for students, again, a different pathway for a commencement credential. It feels to me like there's a lot of things that are really dovetailing right now in education, and it's a very, very exciting time. As far as the blueprint for excellence, one final thing I'm going to say, as Dr. Ursig mentioned, this blueprint for excellence as being a path forward for a strategic plan. I'm very pleased. We had an opportunity, quite a few of the board members got together this month, and we did talk about developing our own very specific goals in a retreat, goals that are going to be reflective of how we conduct ourselves and what is important to us. But of course, all of that does have the effect of kind of filtering down overall into the larger plan, and I would say it would fit into this larger blueprint. So those are some exciting things that we're doing as a board, talking about that development of those development of goals and things like that. So those are just a few updates that I wanted to share. I appreciate those folks that have come out tonight. Always, it's not easy to come out on a weeknight, and just be very careful on your way home because it is deer season. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Friday the 3rd was the star party at the high school, so I want to thank the science club and the science teachers for organizing that, encouraging all their students to go. And tomorrow, I think, is the deadline. If you're interested in the ski and snowboard club, you can still get a season pass. I know, Bill, you're going to do it again. Yeah, so it's an opportunity for the kids to come hang out with some board members. We're all looking forward to it. So tomorrow. Thanks.
Anybody else? Turn it off on me.
It's on now? Yes? No? Maybe? All right, good. So I would also like to congratulate all the fall sports. It was a pretty exciting fall sports season for many, pretty much all of them, honestly. The varsity boys and girls soccer, football, cross country, golf, and then to have two of our own acknowledged for their own accomplishments with Mr. Bernard and Mr. Weissop. I think that's pretty awesome to kind of see that. Ms. Gian Greco, thank you for the presentation. As always, your student government, it's pretty awesome. I love hearing them, hearing what their thoughts are. It was very nice of them to always kind of introduce the next person and say thank you, so I always appreciate that as well. It's nice to see the student growth year over year. Obviously, we don't want to see the red. We want to see, kind of see that continue to disappear, and to kind of see that happening pretty much in your school, and obviously most of the other schools is kind of what we're here for. That's what we want to see. Personally, I got to attend one of the trunk or treats at Riccardi. That was quite the experience. Dr. Ursig was there, I gave the luxury of seeing me there. But I'm assuming all the other trunk or treats were probably great as well. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. My daughter was running around like a mad woman, but she had a lot of fun as well. And I thank you guys for doing that. I thank the PTAs for putting that stuff together. The kids really do enjoy that stuff. As far as parent engagement, you spoke on that in your slideshow. I think that is a huge thing that this community kind of needs to continue to drive. You know, when I first initially ran for the board, that was kind of what I pushed, was to try and engage parents to kind of be involved and have their voices heard. And I feel that we're just not there yet. You know, I'd love to see more parents coming out to these meetings, or even sending ideas or emails into building leadership, to Dr. Ursig, to the board themselves. I see on social media, obviously everybody's got a voice on social media, and I think a lot of those questions that are out there can be answered pretty quickly in regards to what's actually happening, to give you a better understanding, as opposed to allowing the rumor mill to kind of churn itself up and get people kind of going more so than anything. I will always answer any question that anybody emails me. I'm sure every other board member will as well. I know Dr. Ursig will. So I recommend anybody to reach out if you do have questions. Sometimes social media is a good thing, as we've spoken on before, where kind of people rectify the situation in their own, but sometimes it can kind of spiral out of control and maybe offend people. And sometimes it often ends up in people going back and forth with each other even. So if it's anything in regards to the school, I do recommend reaching out and asking the question. It doesn't hurt to ask the question, kind of get a better understanding of what's actually happening. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything? Board President's remarks. Mrs. Jean Greco and the Morse community, thank you for making us feel welcome. I always like coming to Morse, and I know it's been a long day. Please congratulate the students. They did excellent tonight. When I was looking around the room, I was looking over at the computer and video production crew over there. I can remember coming to board meetings where there used to be an overhead projector with those clear slides and the handwriting on them. And to see students here on laptops engaged, we're really doing well with technology. And I'm really proud of you guys for being here tonight and seeing the progress that we've made over the years in Saugerties. As far as the fall sports, I have a quote from Bum Phillips, who was a one-time football coach. And Mr. Phillips said to his team, and I would say that to Saugerties, this year we knocked on the door, next year you're going to kick it in. Thank you. Dr. Warbeck, you're up.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So I want to start off by congratulating several Saugerties teachers, instructional coaches. We always are really proud when our teachers and administrators are presenting at statewide conferences. So congratulations to Dr. Jen Schlaber. She's one of our instructional coaches for the second year in a row. She presented last week at the New York State Reading Literacy Conference. Chelsea DeFino, one of our assistant principals, presented almost 2 weeks ago at the Staney's Conference statewide. That's science, New York State science. Sarah Ilya continues to be an author for Edutopia, which is this enormous, well-credited source for all educators, and she is a contributing author and frequently references Saugerties. So this was just a highlight and give you some updates, but at the last minute I thought you might want to read some of the articles, so that's hyperlinked. And also up at the top is Michelle Milgram. She completed level 1 and level 2 Google certificated educator. That is a really difficult test. So congratulations to her. Kat Squires has completed level 1. But congratulations to all of them. They're really making Sawyers look great. So I just want to give you a brief snapshot in terms of our intentional leadership, teaching, and learning for everyone. As always, our PD plan leads and drives our work that we're doing, and we always begin with the top down. So intentionally planning professional learning for our administrators through a retreat, conferences. This year we did a focus on the Culturally Responsive Sustaining Education Framework, frequently called the CRSE. This was an incredible document written by multiple educators, also people in the field who really are promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. In our DEI committee, district-wide, we've referenced it and gone into this work. So what we did this year was our administrators looked at the Danielson rubric and also the framework, CRSE, and then we did a crosswalk. So how might we see evidence in the classroom of equity? What would that look like? Would it look like from everything of materials to how we call on students, to voices, choices, all of it. And great conversations were had with that. Also, planning our intentional PD for teachers. We don't believe in one-shot deals or just bringing in one person one time. We know that doesn't work, so we sustain it with our instructional coaches. It's based on data, all of our data, qualitative and quantitative data, research-based, and most importantly, we're in pursuit of having the highest form of professional development, so that would be teachers teaching teachers. And that's where we are headed, as much as we possibly can. So that requires a lot of collaboration and a lot of multiple meetings with many different stakeholders. So this year, we have a focus because there are so many needs based on the data, and then there are so many wants as well. So our 3 E's, this is our focus for the year for all learning. Our engagement are all the adults and students engaged. Equity is the instruction, curriculum, and environment equitable to all. And empowerment, how are we empowering our students and our staff? So just as a friendly reminder, we're gonna go through this really quickly. This is where we left off last year from the last time I presented to you. In pursuit of doing this, we have to create a culture of learning for all, and it does take a little bit of vulnerability sharing out to your peers. And as Principal Jean Greco stated, 11 of her staff members presented. This was our final one, and you can see the entire cafeteria is flooded with staff. You can see at each table principals, retired principals, as you can see in the first table there. And also some teachers were presenting their best practices, promising practices, and the very best ones are when we have a brave soul who will share something that failed, because there's a lot to be learned from that. We continue to work with processes in our lead teacher meetings to analyze student work and data. And most importantly, engaging in continuous processes of reviewing standards and curriculum. So we kicked off the year giving our teachers time. If you ask teachers what they want, they're always going to say time. So in every single superintendent's conference day that we can, on September 15th and this past one, November 7th, there was time allocated to either review pacing guides, which is calendaring of what they're teaching, and we want to build up to curriculum mapping. And this past superintendent's conference day for grades 7 through 12, there was design time, time to design units aligned with PBL. We're continuing great practices of grand rounds. All of our elementary schools are, Cahill is currently engaged in that this week, and then our other schools will begin the processes in weeks to follow. So we are now in our third year of working with these dynamic instructional coaches who are just, we are so fortunate to have them. They are brilliant with data, instructional pedagogy, and our principals work closely with them just like the teachers. So this year, we have partnered with Torrance Hampton. Torrance is a director, he's an entrepreneur. He has a great story of how his entire life changed when his mother passed away. And it changed everything in the whole direction of his life. And so we wrote a book called Genius Factor. It's over there if anybody wants to take a peek at it at the table. And what we're doing, we brought him in so the staff could meet him. So we can flip the mindset instead of our students can't do it to yes, they can. And there's multiple ways that our students can do it. So this is a very common message. But Torrance has a charismatic way of delivering the message. More importantly, Torrance is piloting this book with our junior high staff, because who better to really think about what is their genius when you are in middle school. So Principal Vale is working with our teachers, and on November 7th, this past superintendent's conference day, Ginger Vale, a small cadre of teachers sat with Torrance in the afternoon to go through his curriculum, and we will be piloting this in our digital citizenship classes. And at the end, our students will present what they've learned and present their genius inside of them. So here are just some things. It's a long, mighty list, and this list is a compilation of what's needed and then also trying to attend to some needs and trying to attend to, there's always wants. So some high needs that were prevailing were co-teaching grades 5 through 8. Co-teaching is very difficult. It's like an arranged marriage. Sometimes it's an arranged polygamous marriage, so there are interpersonal relationships. There is curriculum of sharing. And ultimately what we want is for the students not to know who the gen ed teacher, who the special education teacher is. We want there to be parity and sharing of the work, because that's what benefits the students and student achievement. So we've given a lot of dedication and time to this. On November 7th, these teams worked all day long with a consultant from IDE, and she's not going away. She will continue to provide support to Saugerties co-teaching teams once a month. Also, this year we are implementing Foundations. This is our program for explicit and direct phonics and morphology. So this year we've added 3rd grade. It's all based in the science of reading. It's what we know that helps our students learn to read. And the list goes on and on, but a few things to highlight that are here. On November 7th, we had designated time for our kindergarten through 4th grade and all of our teaching assistants to get their eyes and minds and hands on the CRSE. This is really important work. As you heard from Dr. Ursig, this is important at SED. We need to stay ahead of it. We need to be immersed in it and understand what it is. 2 years ago, the high school did this work. At that particular moment, the elementary was implementing brand new literacy programs. So this was the right time where they could give it their full attention. Additionally, at the secondary level, we continued our work with project-based learning, and it's not always creating a project. One of the workshops was 6 Ps of PBL. It could be a problem, which is aligns beautifully with global studies. It could be a pursuit. A pursuit is someone's passion, which aligns with Torrance Hampton's work, or it could be a phenomenon-based project, which aligns with our science NISL standards. Additionally, Dr. Kapler always creates opportunities for school psychologists, social workers, nurses to engage in areas of mental health. We did Handle with Care. And additionally, it's really important that we are attending to all staff, teaching assistants, aides, and monitors. So really trying to plan for them more intentionally has been a priority as well this year. There's just 2 more things I want to point out. Our music department had the opportunity to go down to Marlboro Middle School and have their own music conference, which was exciting, and so did PE and Health. They went to Minnesink. So here were some of the choice slices throughout the day, providing choice for our teachers. We try to do that when it's possible. The hidden gems of iReady. So we're in our 4th year of iReady, but there's still so much more to explore, because remember, part of the rollout happened during COVID. So really giving teachers that time to dig in and explore. Additionally, we did a reboot for grades kindergarten through 2 of Foundations, because again, we're in our 4th year of it. So the training happened 4 years ago. And COVID was part of that. So this gave teachers time to remember and collaborate and dig deeper into the program. This picture here is our staff and teachers working on the CRSE framework. And I just want to point out here, a lot of the time is so many educators are working so quickly that it provides time and space to ask questions and think deeply. So these days are critically important. So as I always end, you know, what if we continue doing all these things? What if we continue in pursuit of engagement, equity, and empowerment? And what if Saugerties continues doing and striving not to just be good, as Dr. Ercik says, but to be great? And what if we become one of the top school districts in New York State? So do you have any questions about the adult learning? Okay, great.
Thank you, Dr. Rohrbach. I'll entertain a motion for personnel, instructional, and non-instructional items K1, 2, 3, and 4. Moved by Mr. Poston, is there a second? Second by Ms. Keller. Discussion. None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And
So we do have senior recipients. Congratulations. And then also in attendance, I do see our new Morris librarian, Mara Amber, our new special educator at the department.
Business office recommendations, I'll entertain a motion to approve items L1 through L8. Moved by Ms. Della Rosa, is there a second? Second by Mr. Riazzi. Discussion?
Mark, I just have one question. It's in relation to... Okay, there we go. Just item 8 with the budget calendar. Is there a way to mail the newsletter out earlier? Is that something that we can consider? Just, I know in the last couple of years personally, I have not gotten that budget newsletter prior to the budget vote. I've had to pick it up at the budget vote. So I don't know if it's the mail system or the printer where it's getting mailed from, but I didn't know if that is a hard dead date, or is that something that can be mailed out earlier? That's my question.
So that, something last year, I believe it was with the printers and mail, and a combination of the two. The struggle is when it's voted on and adopted, we have a quick, couple days turnaround to get to the printers. So, I mean, I'll express obviously the concerns with BOCES facilities.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Board action discussion items, entertain a motion to approve item M1, CSE, CPSE, and 504 recommendations. Ms. Keller and Mr. Mooney's second. Discussion. None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item M2, a new teacher aide position. I'll call for a motion. Moved by Mr. Polsky, for a second. Second by Mr. McClary. Discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Item N3, new Director of Human Resources position. Resolution to create that. Ms. Della Rosa, is there a second? Wells, discussion? None being heard, I'll call for...
Just one thing I just wanted to mention. I had asked some questions about the title of the position for human resources based on some guidance that was put out by the New York Teacher Retirement System, which put into question whether a director position can be eligible for teacher's retirement system or the employee retirement system, and needing to meet certain criteria. So from the information I've gotten, it seems that this position, as long as we've approved it with our attorneys, that we meet those requirements, I'm happy to support the position. And, alternatively, if we haven't done so, we may want to just double check with the teacher's retirement system that they're okay with the way that our job description and duties are written, that the person in this position is eligible, because I wouldn't want anything to, cause trouble down the road. So, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item N4, Director of Human Resources Employment Contract Resolution. I'll call for a motion. Motion by Mr. Wells. Is that a second, Ms. Caddick? Discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Item N5, Student Contract Resolution. I'll call for a resolution on approving that. Mr. Ball, your second. Mr. Mooney, discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 6, the Volunteer Firefighters Partial Tax Exemption Resolution. Mr. Ball, your second. Mr. Rosa. Discussion? Go ahead.
Briefly, maybe. I say briefly. Be quiet. I'll be honest with you, I was a little surprised there might not have been as much discussion publicly as we would have thought, but I do just want to say, with this resolution, you know, we all, in any kind of town, you get to know people, and I think firemen probably top the list in terms of the number of people that I know in our community that are probably, you know, the most selfless individuals, because I've seen it. I've seen it in rain, I've seen it in snow, I've seen the volume of calls sometimes that end up being much ado about nothing, and yet people come out of their homes and disrupt their own family and holidays and things like that. But even more frightening, what happened recently is, in one or two instances, because I live on a busy road, an accident where no one shows up. Okay, and I've been on that side of the coin as well. Literally directing 2 or 3 lanes of traffic, waiting for emergency personnel to show up. So the prospect of not having individuals volunteer in these kinds of capacities is something that is concerning and should be concerning for everybody. The one thing I will say about this is I can't say that I appreciate the governor putting, and this is something that other people have echoed as well, but putting communities and municipalities in this kind of a situation. Because it's a nice idea, this tax break, and I hope it does incentivize some people to consider service, you know, along those lines. But the reality is it's a numbers game, right? I'm sure if every fire company went back and looked at the point in time when they had the highest number of individuals that were on their register as volunteers, you know, it would have been 15 to 20 years ago. At the height of the baby boom generation, 44 million people strong, right? Whereas you come to successive generations and the population literally drops off to 13 million. So I don't think it's necessarily that people aren't willing to sacrifice, and I don't think it's necessarily that there aren't these types of individuals out there. I just think there's fewer of them. And if our contributing this little incentive, goes toward elevating the status of the volunteer fire personnel, and somehow contributes, to more people getting involved, I think that's great. Invariably, that I think we're probably somewhere down the road going to have to go to a municipal fire force. Again, that's not a Board of Ed decision, but I think that's the kind of thing that the state is facing. As far as my part in this vote, it's a small vote, but it's a big vote, and it speaks volumes, and I hope that it has the intended effect. And I thank all the fire personnel that do report in rain and snow. Thank you.
Any other discussion? I would echo Mr. Ball's remarks that I'm disappointed with the governor. I'm all for giving the firefighters an exemption, but I would prefer that the governor not put it on the backs of the school district taxpayers. If she wanted an exemption, she could have set an example and had it come from the reduction in state taxes. But again, I support the firefighters so heartily, and we stop, put $1 or $2 in the boot when they're out there, and I appreciate their sacrifice. So with that, any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item N7, employment agreement resolution for James and Moore. Call for the resolution. Mr. Mooney, is there a second? Mr. Riassi. Any discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Item 8, the ARC Mid-Hudson and Brookside Agreement. Call for a resolution. Ms. Delarosa, Ms. Kelder, second. Discussion, none being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 9, the ARC Mid-Hudson and Rich Schoolwork Program Service Agreement Resolution. Mr. Ball, and I think that's Ms. Delarosa, what you said. Any discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 10, the Deputy Superintendent Employment Contract Resolution. Mr. Mooney, second by Mr. McClary. Discussion? Go ahead.
As earlier in the year, I had voted no to an increase in administrative positions at the central level. I don't think now is the time to give yet another title change or position increase, whereas I appreciate the work. I have asked that we wait until the end of the year and then we revisit, considering all the movement that we have. I'll say it again, our enrollment is declining. We've eliminated support personnel in the classrooms, and I just don't feel comfortable increasing a title or salaries at this time.
Any other discussion? Melissa?
I would just like to echo a little bit what Carol said and just, preface that, my comments aren't a reflection of the person or the great work that they're doing, but my concern is adding administrative salary at this point in time in the year, where, especially in a year that we are going to be looking at over $1 million of positions that are in COVID aid right now, and how we're going to deal with them in our budgetary process coming forward in the upcoming year. And the timing for me would be more applicable at the end of the year as we look at our overall budget and our needs. And I've also, back in February when a deputy superintendent position came up, I expressed my concern that we as a district, being in declining enrollment, actually need that level of administration within our central office, and those are my concerns. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Ken, will you call the roll, please?
Robert Tony,
Yes.
James Mooney,
Yes.
William Ball,
Yes.
Carol Kelder, Christine Bellarosa, Jeffrey Riazzi,
Yes.
Raymond McClary,
Yes.
Scott Polston,
Yes.
Timothy Wells.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7 yes, 2 no.
Item M11, Saugerties Early Childhood Learning Center Agreement Resolution. Ms. Delarosa, Mr. Mooney, second. Discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add item M12. This relates to our board retreat to create a board operations committee, as we spoke about last week. Mr. Ball, are you making the resolution?
I thought you made a resolution. I'll
No, I
just
said
make a
no.
motion.
I'm calling for a motion to amend the agenda to add this item.
Okay.
So that would be you, right?
Yes. I'd like to make a
Still making
motion to amend the agenda.
Great. Thank you so much. Second by Mr. Mooney. Discussion. None being heard. Take a vote on amending the agenda to add item M12. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now I'll entertain a motion to approve item M12, the creation of board operations committee. Ms. Delarosa, is there a second? Ms. Kelder. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
If you're interested in being a part of that operations committee, please send me an email and we'll look at scheduling the first meeting prior to our next meeting at KCAP in December. So if there's no conflicts, we'll do it right before the meeting. If not, we'll do it a day or so before. Committee reports, audit committee.
The audit committee met, as Mr. Hero said, on November 6th. It was myself, Dr. Orsig, and Ms. Mills, where we went over basically what he went over tonight, just a draft of the financial statements that were reviewed and the deadlines. The one thing that he did mention is the financial statements were due on October 15th, but there were some delays, but the state allows a 30-day filing without penalty, so hopefully those will be filed in the next day or two. Thank you.
I'd also just add, you had a question about the number of employees that changed. So we supply the data every 2 years. So if we go back to the beginning, there were 39 positions that were added over the course of time. A big chunk of them, having to be 14, were added as part-time TAs who were rehired as full-time aides. So because they got benefits, they're in that category as new employees because they're probably going to cause an expense in the future. But that was an intentional thing to have full-time aides with students who need those services rather than part-time individuals.
Facilities.
Okay, we had our meeting Tuesday, November 1st. I want to thank the student rep, Ms. Mills, for her report on the high school. She's been there more recently than I have, certainly. We are here, we're still waiting for the date for the fire curtain. They keep telling us 6 to 9 months, and I think that's been for the last 6 to 9 months they've been saying that. The building condition surveys have been completed, and they're in the process of being reviewed. We are working on a revolving 4-year plan where we will pick a project each year to qualify for state aid, and instead of hopefully having giant projects like we've had these last couple of years, be able to address things as they come up. BBL and Tetra Tech are scheduled to present at the next board meeting, and our next facilities meeting is Wednesday, December 6th at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Policy committee.
Not much report. There was an introduction to policy services tomorrow, which I'm going to attend, and I believe someone from central office inspired me. We currently use Erie One, and this just has several speakers that are presenting some different functions that we're going to see to benefit the district. And the next meeting is at 5:30 on the 5th of December.
Public recognition. Any member of the public wishing to address the board, please approach the podium. Once, twice, okay. I'll entertain a motion to recess to executive session.
Motion.
Well, tie there. I think Mr. Folsom first, with Mr. Wells second. Okay. Discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you for coming out tonight. We're going to come out of executive session.
The other side of the railroad tracks. I hear you back the other side of the railroad tracks.
I'd like to entertain a motion to come out of executive session. So moved. Moved by Mr. Wells, second by Mr. Ball. Got that, Jim? Yep. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Wells, is there a second?
Carol second.
Mr. Ball, oh, Carol, okay. Any discussion? None being heard, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, CVP.